Hey guys, Christian at Mike's Guns. Been a while since I posted a video. I apologize. It's been pretty busy. Got a lot of things going on. No excuse to be ignoring you guys, but figured I'd give you a few updates. Kind of walk you through some of the cool new stock that we've got. Got a lot of used guns right now, so now's a good time to come in and snag the deals, man. That's the way to go. There's a lot of guns out there that never get shot and they get traded in because somebody wants something else. And of course, I can't sell it as a new gun, even though it's basically a new gun. That's where you get your deals. But anyway, just a few updates. Still working on SOT. Getting more Benellis in, which I got one I'm going to show you guys in a little bit. I won't keep you too long. I've got a little subject I'll talk about at the end of the video if you guys want to hang around that long. But in the meantime, happy October. Sorry for the delay, and I'll show you guys some new guns. We'll get to it. Well, guys, before I get to all the guns, the individual guns, I guess the biggest noticeable change in the shop lately is I finally got some hooks in for all the pistols. So I've had these on back order since I got here, and honestly, it's not even so much about presentation as it is about saving space. I was starting to get pretty full in some of my cases, which is a good thing. I want to have more guns here than you can shake a stick at because you got to have them to sell them, right? But I finally got a big batch of these display hooks in, and this case looks a little bit bare. It looked a lot fuller before they all went on hooks, but that's like the biggest aesthetic change to Mike's recently. So, oh, and another change. Hey, Echo. That's Echo. She's the best mutt I've ever had. You guys come in here, you'll love her. She'll bark at you possibly when you come in the door, but she's totally harmless. Super smart. She's about 8 years old. Aren't you? Echo, sit. Hey, sit down. Good girl. She's a smart dog. My favorite dog I've ever had, but she comes and hangs out with me at shop most days. So all those are in. The used rack is really full, so this is pretty slick. We've got some super nice guns here. I'll go over a few of them without giving you all the details here at the moment, but shotguns on one side, rifles on the other, and little shorties wherever they'll fit. So let's get to the guns then. All right, guys, first one I got to show you. This is the King Daddy of 20 gauge shotguns. So I am not a shotgun fanatic. I've got a bunch of shotguns. I've shot a bunch of shotguns, and I enjoy shotguns, but there's a lot of different tiers of shotguns. You can spend $200 on a shotgun, and you can spend $80,000 on a shotgun. They do exist. I don't have any here. But of all the shotguns that I have ever shot, ever pulled up to my shoulder, this, the Benelli Ethos, pulls up and lines up and points literally better than all of them. I mean, even the other Benellis, I don't know what kind of gypsy trickery, witchcraft magic that Benelli has done with this gun, but this is the second one I've had in. The first one came in used. It was a 12 gauge, and it was the Sport, which is the wood. This one's all carbon fiber, but guys, I'm telling you, money, no object. You grab this gun, you pull it up to your shoulder. I mean, close your eyes and just pull it up, and when you open your eyes, it's pointing where you want it to point. It's kind of freaky. There are guys who've got more shotguns and more money in shotguns, and I've got my whole gun collection come in here, and I point them to this gun. I say, go pull that up, and it's always the same reaction. They yank it up to their shoulder, and they go, ooh, and their eyes get real big. I don't think this one will be here long. I don't think I'm allowed to talk about prices here on YouTube, but what I will tell you is Mike's is the place around here to get Benelli. So I'm a direct dealer with Benelli. Like I just order them directly from them. So I'm able to get pretty decent prices on them, and I try to pass that savings on to you. Without giving too many details, there are people that come from a long ways around, historically, like before I was here, to come get Benelli shotguns at Mike's. And these are phenomenal shotguns. They are super reliable. They're simple. The fit and finish is just beautiful. They're just great. Everything about these guns is great. And in my opinion, this is probably the coolest semi-automatic Benelli that they make. I mean, I just can't even put to words how perfect this gun feels when you pull it up. So come see us about this one. I don't imagine it'll be here long. I just put in my annual Benelli qualifier. You got to order so much to be able to deal direct with them. And he asked me which one I wanted first. And I said the 20 gauge Ethos Super Sport, because my goodness, I mean, just love it. I know you guys will too. Next in line, guys, this is a Ruger American Gen 2. This one is, oh, let's hide that price tag, in 308. And the reason I'm showing you this one is because these guys are hard to get. They're popular. Ruger's been making the American rifle for at least a decade. I've had a few of them myself. My current deer gun is actually a Generation 1 Ruger American in 223. And this gun is the Gen 2. So it's got a removable piece in the rear. So if you're hunting with youth or something like that, somebody's got a short length of pull, you can yank that out and they can grow into this gun, which is a nice feature. They've got this removable cheek piece. So that's an adjustable comb. It doesn't come with any other ones, but you can get them to raise or lower your cheek. They come set up with a rail. They've got this really nice Cerakote finish with this kind of splatter paint job on the stock. They fluted the barrels on all of them, with the exception of a few of the bigger bore calibers. And they all come threaded with a Ruger muzzle brake. So the biggest difference in the Gen 2s and the Gen 1s, besides the general look, fluted barrel, the brake, all that, is just kind of the fit and finish. So they really improved. The Gen 1s are great guns. They're really accurate. Mine all have been anyway. But the Gen 2s are just a little bit smoother. The trigger's a little bit better. The bolt's a little bit smoother. And like I said, the fit and finish on them is better. And they're just better looking guns. And they're really hard to get. There's only a couple calibers that I can like regularly get this gun in. But this one happens to be a 308. Usually when they call me, I put a bunch of them on back order, all kinds of different popular calibers. And they call me and say, we got them in. And I say, send me all you can. And it's not usually very many. The only calibers I can consistently get them in are like 204 Ruger and 450 Bushmaster, which are fine calibers, but getting them in 308 and 243 and 270 and 30-06 and all, 6.5 Creedmoors, right? These real popular deer hunting calibers, they are not easy to get. So when I get them, I like to show them off and I like to let people know because they don't stick around long because they're really, really popular. And the price point on them is, for what you're getting, just fantastic. And all they're lacking is a piece of glass on top and they're just ready to rock. So super nice guns. Ruger American Gen 2, that one's 308. Next one on the block. This is the Bergara B14 Wilderness. So I'm going to talk about this one for just a minute. Why? Because I have one of these guns in 6.5 Creedmoor and I love it. For the money, I really don't think you're beating this gun. Couple things about it. One, guaranteed out of the box by Bergara, which is a Spanish maker. They're actually famous more for their barrels than anything, but they're guaranteed out of the box to shoot 1 MOA or less. So I may have talked about this in a previous video, I don't know. An MOA is an angular measurement, but what it essentially equates to is 1 inch, right? 1 MOA is 1 inch at roughly at 100 yards. So what they're telling you is out of the box with proper ammunition, they guarantee you that this gun will put 3 shots inside of a 1 inch square at 100 yards. That is a pretty impressive guarantee, right? A lot of guns will shoot that, but there aren't too many out there that are guaranteeing it. This is a lovely piece. Mine is in 6.5 Creedmoor. This one is in 6.5 PRC, which is the same caliber with a little bit more oomph, right? You're getting about 200 feet per second more velocity out of them. It's got the fluted barrel. It's got the Bergara brake, which, having seen some reviews on different muzzle brakes, these Bergara brakes, even though they're pretty simple looking, are extremely effective. They really cut down like 30% of your recoil on even big Magnum calibers like 300 Win Mag and such. The bolts on them are smooth as glass. I mean, my goodness, it just feels like it's riding on ball bearings. They are just phenomenal. They open and close so good. They got about a 2.5 pound trigger. Mine's like 2 pounds and 3 ounces, right? So it's somewhere between there. Adjustable cheek piece. They make a few different versions of this, light and heavy and everything in between. But this is probably my favorite rifle, bolt action rifle on the shelf. And it's just because I have one and I can attest to how good they shoot, how accurate they are. And there's just nothing you really need to do to them. Out of the box, they're just set up. They got smooth bolts, good triggers, good accuracy. Everything about them's nice. And personally, I think they're pretty handsome. I like that spatter look. It's becoming more popular these days. They were one of the earlier ones to do it. Now all the Gen 2 Rugers do it and stuff. But 10 out of 10, would recommend. Come see me about this one. Got a pretty decent deal on it. And it's in the right caliber. That 6.5 PRC is no joke. Oh my goodness, what is that weird looking gun? This is the new Ruger LC carbine. What's special about this? Well, nothing except that it's in 10 millimeter auto, which is my favorite handgun caliber. I made some phone calls a month ago or so when Ruger was releasing this gun, and I said, I don't care what it takes. I said, I love them. I want one. I love 10 millimeter. When you get one, I want it, right? So I got a phone call not too long after they let them go, and they said, we've got 2 of them. I said, send them to me. I will take them immediately. One of them's already gone. This is the last one I got. But these guns have become really popular in the last few years. They make them in 9 millimeter, 45 ACP, and even like 5.7 by 28, which is the P90 caliber, which is pretty cool. But they just released the 10 millimeter. And if you guys know me, or you know 10 millimeter, you know I love 10 millimeter, and 10 millimeter is a thumper. I mean, it's a super hot, a good 10 millimeter is a super hot pistol round. And coming out of this little rifle, it can do some thumping. So I think they're super cool. They come with the SGM tactical magazines, which are, I think, 30 rounds. And if you guys know the Chris Vectors, that's the magazines they come with. They're Glock compatible. So if you've got a 10 millimeter Glock or you got 10 millimeter Glock mags, that's what it takes, which is great because the Glock mag is like the quintessential handgun mag. Just about everybody that makes a pistol caliber carbine, if they don't make it to take Glock mags, they don't survive because everything takes Glock mags, and they're plentiful and they're cheap comparatively to other brands. And this is just a really cool gun. So again, details of it: threaded muzzle if you guys want to run suppressors, comes with flip up iron sights, comes with the big magazine. That stock right there folds. I'm not going to do it one-handed because I'll make it look weird, but press that button, it folds over to the side. It's adjustable, and the triggers in them are good, and they're simple. These guns, everything Ruger makes these days is quality, and these guns are no exception. They will run well, and this is just a great gun. This is one you can have a ton of fun with at the range shooting steel. It's one you can defend your house with. Like, I would trust my life to this gun. And they're a little weird looking, which I actually like, but they've developed a reputation for being a very reliable, very robust gun in the last few years. And when I found out they were releasing them in 10 millimeter, I was giddy as a schoolgirl. So thought I'd show this one off. This is the last one we got. I hear from some of the regulars that I'm like several $100s cheaper on this gun than most of the competition, probably because they're just so hard to get. But I'm here to save you guys some money, pass it on to you guys, and hopefully once this one's gone, I'll be able to get a few more. I don't know when, but I'd say it won't last too long because I push 10 millimeter to everybody that walks in the door because it's pretty much my favorite. So Ruger LC carbine, come give it a look, come play with it. Nice piece. All right, guys, can't talk about good, hard to get ones until I bring up Marlin. So I was actually in the process of making another video a little while back, and I ended up scrapping it, long story, just didn't get it up. But I kind of went through Marlin lever guns, so I'll talk about this now. This is the Marlin 1894 Skinner Trapper, right? So those sights right there, those are Skinner sights. They're a real sought after aftermarket. I don't know if I can get her to focus. Yeah, probably not. Anyway, there we go. Skinner Trapper. High-end sights. So here's the thing with lever guns, and specifically Marlins. Marlin is like the quintessential lever gun. I mean, Winchester made them. There's a bunch of companies that make them, but a Marlin 336, which is the 30-30 lever gun, has probably killed more deer in this state than like every other gun combined, Remington 700s included. It's an extremely popular and historically reasonably priced gun, and Marlin has just always made a quality gun for the money. What happened was, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, Remington, which is a monstrous gun company, and they bought Marlin. And Remington was going through some hard times. They were not making, at this time, really the highest quality of gun generally. And they were also buying a lot of smaller gun companies, and they were, I hate to say ruining them, but they were kind of ruining them. They bought Bushmaster, which was a Kentucky company, and they told Bushmaster that they were going to keep the facility, keep the employees, and just own the name and take some of the profits. Well, they backed off on that. They closed down the Bushmaster facility, and they started making Bushmaster rifles under the Remington name out of New York, and they were ruining them. Well, they did the same thing with Marlin. So for about 10 or 12 years, Marlin got a terrible reputation. What was a classic lever gun for hunting was essentially ruined. They kind of wrecked Marlin's reputation. They weren't making a good product. They just weren't granddaddy's Marlin like everybody's used to. So for a long time, you couldn't get what anybody would consider
a quality Marlin. Well, Remington went bankrupt, as they probably should have, because they were just not making good products across the board. Their quality control was bad, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure why this happened, but it did happen. So they went bankrupt, and when they went bankrupt, they sold Marlin, the name, to Ruger. And like I said, I'm not a Ruger fanboy, even though this video probably convinced you otherwise. I mean, I own a couple Rugers in my collection, but I'm not like, oh, Ruger. But I will say that Ruger, when they bought Marlin, started making the best quality Marlins that have ever been made. And as a result, they've become highly sought after. Everybody went from not being able to get a good Marlin for 10 or 12 years to suddenly fighting over the best Marlins that have ever been made. And the fit and finish on these guns is just lovely. I mean, they're beautifully done. The quality control is just fantastic. Everything is tight. There's no gaps. There's no wibbling, no wobbling. The finish is beautiful on them. And as a result, the price on these guns has not only gone way up, but they've gotten really hard to get. I would trade every gun on the wall that I have for a Ruger-made Marlin right now, if I could, because they're just so sought after. And I've been in business here at Mike's for about 5 months, and I've got only 4 total Marlins. All 4 of them, new ones that is, all 4 of them were 44 Magnums, which is super cool. But I can't get them in 45-70, I can't get them in 357, I can't get them in 30-30. This is about all I can get them on. And when they come, they don't last very long because they're just really sought after right now. And there's a reason why. I mean, this gun is just beautiful. And it's actually created a renaissance kind of in the whole lever gun world, right? Not just the Marlins, but the Henrys and the Rossies and Smith & Wesson is now making lever guns, and they're very expensive. They've just kind of brought it back to prominence, right? A lever gun was never anything to dote over, but since Ruger has saved Marlin lever guns, they have just become sought after across the board, and the Ruger Marlins are really hard to get. So thought I'd show this one off. It's got that beautiful grayish, bluish, I'm colorblind, I think it's bluish, probably just gray, laminate stock, which laminate is high quality, tough stuff. It's tougher than your average wood the way they make it. And this beautiful satin finish stainless all the way down. They got them with threaded barrels, which is super cool because the world's going to suppressors, which they should. Suppressors are fantastic. And this particular one's got the short barrel with that Skinner Trapper sight. This is just a super nice piece. People dote over it. People love it. Everybody wants a lever gun. It's kind of making me want lever guns. I wish I could get me a nice Ruger Marlin in 357, but I might as well just try to catch dust I threw into the wind because they are really hard to get. But I got this one, so come see me about it. Nice piece. All right, dudes and gals, another really cool one I'm excited to show you. This is so fresh out of the box, it's still steaming, okay? This is the HK-CC9. I'm actually a direct dealer with HK, like I am with Benelli. So I'm able to get the hookup on HKs pretty early. I got 2 of these. This is the CC9. This has been a long anticipated, rumored gun. Nobody ever knew if it was going to exist. If you know HKs, you're going to know its quality. Please ignore the fact it's on a Glock mat. I'm a Glock lover, but I kind of hear a sizzle where it's touching that. Somebody somewhere is probably upset about having that on a Glock mat. But these guns, HKs, are advertised accurately as no compromise handguns. And what that essentially means is they figure out what kind of mission they want to accomplish with a gun. They go through all the testing, all the development. They make the gun. They test it rigorously. They decide it's good. And then when it's all said and done, they figure out a price after the fact. So these guns are pretty pricey, but everything that HK makes is meant to be a go to war, trust your life with it quality gun. And even though this is a Micro 9, right, nice and thin, 12 round capacity, it's about the size of like a Smith & Wesson Shield or Springfield Hellcat, right? Hellcat, yeah. These guns are put through trials. They're put through NATO trials. So what that means is this gun's got to go through X number of rounds without any kind of malfunction or cleaning. It's got to be drop, kick, stomped, dusted, dirty, mud, water, everything else, and it has to function in all these really tough environments without fail. And before they released this gun, they made sure that it was capable of doing that. This gun will never fail you. It's got a heavy, intentionally, but crisp trigger, And I actually got 2 of these before HK even put them up on their website, which is pretty cool. Guys were coming in here going, what is that? I go, oh, that's the new CC9. They're like, I can't even find it. Well, about 3 days after I got them, HK announced it to the public on their website. So I kind of got first dibs at these. I've got a fantastic price on it. And like I said, if you're just looking for a gun that you can trust no matter what all the time, HKs are kind of king daddies. They are famous for making the bestest of guns. If you know the MP5, which anybody who knows anything about guns has probably heard of an MP5, that's the HK, right? And their handguns are of the same quality. They just do not give up. It's a heavy little joker, which I'm sure is intentional. It feels really good in the hand. It is really nicely sized. And I'd love to be able to go shoot this one, but I can't do that because then I'd probably have to sell it as a used gun. But one of these days, someday in the far future, I'm sure I'll have one come in used and I might get a chance to go out to the range and test it. Speaking of which, probably going to start doing some videos at the range. So if you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments section down below. But yeah, guys, so this is brand new. It's hot off the press. HK just released it, and Mike's Guns in Frankfort, Kentucky's got a few of them. I think I got a few more on the way. I'd say once this original stock of them runs out, they're going to be pretty hard to get for quite a while. And that's what I've been telling people that are interested in it. Like, if you want it, you're going to have to get it now. And, you know, and it's not just trying to sell them something. It's just one of those things that it's going to take off in popularity. Once people do some reviews and know more about it, it's going to be the hottest thing in the concealed carry market. And people have been waiting for HK to do this for a really long time because they're definitely not known for making micro-sized handguns. Most of their handguns are quite large, as a matter of fact, but they're just meant to be ultimate no-compromise handguns. This one's no exception. They just managed to pack it into a tiny package just for reference. So that's in my hand, right, as compared to, and I don't have huge hands, I don't have small hands, but you see the size of this little joker. So 10 out of 10, would recommend. Come get them while I can get them, because I don't know how long I'll be able to get them. But in the meantime, I've got a great price on it, and I look forward to seeing you on it. All right, this one's definitely more fitting on the Glock, Matt, because it is a Glock. This is a 17L. These are super cool guns. This is the longest 9mm barrel that Glock makes. The 17 is their standard full-size handgun. Glock's been making super reliable, super accurate, no-fail handguns since, about the 80s. And if anybody doesn't know this, Glock was the first commercially successful polymer frame pistol, right? So 95% of that frame is plastic. And when they first came out, they were really controversial because up to that point, every gun everywhere had been all metal and wood. And people were literally freaking out about them. But they proved to be some of the most reliable handguns ever made. And they've been making these ultra reliable handguns basically on the same kind of blueprint ever since the 80s. And they've got some updates. This, the 17L, is just a longer topped version of the 17, which is their classic 9mm handgun. They don't release them terribly often. They make them in sort of batches. Every couple of years they'll make a batch of them, they'll release them, but this is the first time they've done it in the Generation 5, right? So with the Gen 5, you get that top piece right there. Let's see if it'll focus. There you go. That's optics cut. They call it MOS. So you can put red dots on them, which the whole world is going to. I'm a little bit old school. I'm kind of struggling to learn that world myself. But you can get the 17L now in the Gen 5, which has got the MOS cut. It's got adjustable rear sight. It's got front and rear slide serrations. They've got a little bit of a different grip. They got rid of finger grooves and gave it some different texturing. But this is the first time they've released the 17L in Gen 5. So I've got one, and I am a big fan of Glocks. I've got several of them myself. I shot them competitively for years. I've got one Glock that's a Model 22. It was my first handgun. It's a 40 Smith & Wesson because that was popular back at the time. And that gun has got at least 30,000 rounds through it. That gun does not care. It's perfectly fine. In 30,000 rounds, I've changed a recoil spring in it. I probably should have done it more than once because I think you're supposed to do it every 10,000 rounds. But these guns just never really die. I mean, they will outlive just about anybody that owns them, and this 17L's no exception. This one's just got a few Gucci parts on it, and it's got that long slide, which is pretty cool. Fun fact, they actually just re-released a 17L as well. That is a Generation 1 copy. So it's not a true Generation 1. The original Gen 1 Glocks go for quite a bit of money because they were never intended to be collectors. So most of them have been beat up, banged up, and kind of destroyed over the years because they're meant to be tools. So if you've got an original Generation 1 Glock, they're worth quite a bit more money than they were back in the day. But they're re-releasing this gun as a Generation 1 clone. So it's got the original like smooth grip, and it doesn't have any rail on the bottom. I mean, it looks like the old Gen 1s, which is pretty darn cool. And they're not terribly expensive. I'll probably try to get one in here, see if anybody's interested in it. But in the meantime, I got the Gen 5 Big Daddy, so it just felt fitting to put a Glock on the Glock map. So I guess we'll go to the used guns now. I just had to show that one off because it just came in. All right, getting to some of those used guns on that full rack over there. Can't not talk about the Thumper. Talked about how hard the Ruger-made Marlins are to get. Well, I got one. It's used. It's in 4570. You just don't see them floating around out there very often. Guy traded it in on a few things. This gun's had 6 shots put through it, so it's pretty darn close to new. And it's smooth as butter. It's what you expect in a modern Ruger-made Marlin. It's got the laminate wood stock, which is just super pretty. I mean, the video's just not really doing how pretty the wood on this gun is. It's phenomenal quality. It's got the threaded barrel. You can suppress it. It's barely been touched, right? So this is, used guns are where the deals are, guys. I mean, new guns, I can compete so much with pricing, and some things I can get good prices on. But at the end of the day, something like this, like, you're absolutely not going to find this gun anywhere near that price on that tag brand new. But you can come to Mike's Guns and you can get one that's got 6 shots put through it, which isn't even a break-in, and walk home with essentially a new gun that, you know, is just at a much better price. So used guns are great. Everybody loves used guns. Some of them are a little rougher shaped than others, but this is just a fine specimen. Like I said, I have not been able to get a new one of these since I've been here, but I was really lucky to have a used one walk in. It's been here for about a week, and people keep trying to offer me less money on it. I can't take it because I know it's going to sell for this, and people just love them, and it's worth what it's worth, you know. So come deer season, I doubt this one's going to be here long, and deer season is nearly upon us, but I've actually got another 4570 Marlin over there that was a Remington Marlin. It's got a nice Leupold scope on it, but this is the one that people just dote over, and understandably, it's beautiful. It's got that fit and finish like you expect from the new Marlins, and 10 out of 10, would recommend. I just don't need the shoulder abuse that this one will put on you, or I'd probably have taken this one home for myself because I just can't get over how awesome these guns have gotten in the last few years. So in all seriousness, somebody needs to come take this one off my hands, because if they don't do it quickly, I am going to take this home. This is a Savage Mark II trainer. Savage makes super accurate guns. Their 22s are no exception. My first gun that I ever owned was a Savage Mark II and 22 long rifle. I still got that gun. I've shot it so much the extractor's broken, and I can't even get a replacement extractor for it. They just don't make them anymore. They're really hard to find. But this one is a beautiful example. It's got the 90-degree bolt throw. Because it's a trainer, it's intended to be kind of a trainer rifle for people shooting big bolt guns, right? So it's got a longer bolt with a big handle and a big 90-degree bolt throw to kind of mimic like bigger bolt action rifles. This one is a tack driver of a rifle. The guy who traded it in said that he is hitting mini M&Ms at 50 yards with it, which is a pretty awesome shot. It comes with all the doilies. It comes with this nice stock piece. It's got 5 magazines, comes with a sling, and it comes with a Nikon Pro Staff rimfire scope that's set up beautifully. I mean, this scope is mounted the way I would want my scope mounted, with a few little minor exceptions. But this is a quality gun. It's at a great price. It's got the heavy fluted barrel, and they don't make Nikon scopes anymore. Nikon quit making scopes years ago, which is a shame because they were famous for having, for the money, the clearest glass you could get. There was just nothing out there that made, there was just no scope companies out there that made scopes in this price range that had such a clear view. And this one's no exception. It's actually got a rimfire Pro Staff on it, so it's got a reticle in it that's ballistic drop compensating. So it's got dashes on it that are meant specifically for 22 long rifle at set ranges. So this gun is set up, ready to rock, super accurate, got the AccuTrigger, got a bunch of mags, and at the price, like I said, the temptation to take this one home grows every day. If somebody doesn't come get this off my hands, I'm going to end up doing something I shouldn't do, which is, taking some of the stock home, because I really, really like this little gun. I love my Mark II. I can't tell you how many thousands, possibly hundreds of thousands of rounds I've shot through that gun. And it's always been a ton of fun. It's always been accurate. And this is just kind of the big brother of the one I got. So super nice little used gun, and highly recommend them. The CZs are great. They're all great. But I mean, this one is, I don't know, it's got a special spot in my heart, and it's kind of the fancier version of the one I got. So 10 out of 10, would recommend. Come get it. Deal of the week, in my opinion. And like I said, set up and ready to go. Sight it in, get you some decent ammo, go out to the range and punch some holes in paper, hunt squirrels, whatever you want to do with it. You will not be disappointed, I promise. Can't talk about my used stock without bringing this one up. So one of the cool things about being the Benelli dealer around here is a lot of my locals have, a lot of my regulars, they have Benellis, and when they're wanting to trade something in or get something else, they bring their Benellis back to me for trade. This particular one got traded in by a local officer who's a regular up here, and he is a big Colt fan, so he traded it in on a 357 Python. This gun has got all of 25 rounds put through it. It's got one box through it. And this is kind of the king daddy of Benellis. This is the Super Black Eagle 3, which is their most modern Black Eagle. They've been making them since the 90s, but this is the most updated version. And it's a 3.5-inch Magnum gun. It'll shoot 3-inch and 2 3/4-inch shells as well. But this is the Duck Hunter Deluxe. Comes with, I forget the name of this pattern of camo, but I'm a big fan of it. It comes with like 5 chokes. And the gun's not even really been broke in. I mean, it's just been shot a box through and then put up in the safe, and then decided that something else was destined for the safe. So he came and traded this back in. I've actually got 2 Super Black Eagle 3s used right now. And these guns are long-lasting, tough use, phenomenal, reliable, simple shotguns. Benelli's been doing this a long time. They know what they're doing. And this gun is just no exception. The fit and finish is lovely. The bolt is smooth. The feel is beautiful. It's got that nice recoil reducing system in the stock. It's got that soft cheek piece that's kind of like a rubber system, and it's really nice. And they just feel beautiful in the hand. You can do anything with this gun, from shooting trap to hunting goose. I mean, it's a super versatile, really nice shotgun. Like I said, I've got 2 of them used. I don't think you're going to find a better deal on a Super Black Eagle 3, probably in the state of Kentucky, than this one right here. So it's a lovely, lovely gun. It's got a 28-inch barrel. It's got the fiber optic front bead, vent rib. So come see me about this one. If you like Benellis, even if you don't like Benellis, come up here and you'll change your mind, because they just make some of the best guns, especially for the price point, I mean, out there. They're just phenomenal guns. This one's no exception. Talk about another Duck Hunter Deluxe. The nostalgia hits hard with this one. This is a Browning A5. Classic semi-auto shotgun. They're known for that humpback, right? Everybody who knows Browning shotguns know they have that humpback in them. They're just famous for that look. They've been making these guns for a long time. The old ones are really sought after. The new ones are not terribly cheap. They're a different mechanism in them than the old ones are. The old ones had like a recoil system where the barrel would physically recoil back when the gun was fired to throw the bolt up. But that's not how these work. But they're still making a quality shotgun. The A5s are still really sought after. You don't see a whole lot of them. They're relatively expensive. But people who love Brownings, man, they love their Brownings. Like, they just won't go with anything else. And there's not a reason to. If you like a Browning, they're a great shotgun. This one's been hunted with a little bit. It is a used gun. It's still in really good shape. There's nothing mechanically wrong with it or anything. It doesn't have a bunch of scars, marks, rust, anything like that. But it's been used some, so it's not quite as new used as like that Super Black Eagle 3 I just showed you. But they're a super nice gun. You don't see a ton of them in this bottom land. And they're hard to get. Everything that Browning makes, man, is hard to get. And it's a shame, because it is really sought after. But there's Satori over-unders. They're Model 70 Supers, they're A5 shotguns, the Sweet 16s, which is a 16-gauge A5. Like, they're just really sought after and hard to get, and I've actually got one in here. It's used, so come see me on this super cool gun. And that bottomland pattern is really popular these days. I'm not a camo expert, but it sure does look like it would hide good.
All right, guys. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through too many more guns. I've got a bunch more used guns over there. I got a lot more new guns on the wall. Just CZ457s and Benellis and Stogers and Mossbergs and Rugers and Remington BDLs and all these awesome guns. And I could talk about them all night, but you don't want to sit and listen to me all night. And I'm probably not the expert on all these guns, right? If you want to learn more about them, there's probably better resources out there than me to learn about them. But I did want to talk about one thing that has been brought up a lot since I've been here. It's been brought up a lot since I've been in guns. And it's I won't make it too long, but it's the concept of guns being registered in people's names. So the reason I bring this up is because it's been brought up a lot recently to me. And I'll try to keep it as short and simple as possible, but guns aren't registered in people's names at a federal level, right? If you got a car, it's got a title with the VIN on it, that car is registered to somebody, right? The police can go to that car, look at the VIN, pull it up, and it's going to say this car is registered to John Q. Smith at 110 Smith Lane, such and such town, right? Guns aren't that way. People come in here really often with guns, and they'll say, hey, I want this gun transferred. I want it no longer in my name. I want it transferred to my son's name or something like that. And that's not really how it works. There is a federal law that prohibits the registration of guns. And without going too deep in the weeds, the reason for that is because people, rightfully so, think that if you start registering guns and everybody knows what guns everybody has, then it can be used to confiscate, right? And we're really big on our Second Amendment rights in this country and in this community, and it's been pushed for a really long time that there should be no registry on guns. And a lot of people will argue that there should be, and there are reasons for it. We're not going to get into the politics of that. But the only way that a gun can be tracked back to somebody is through a gun shop. And the details of how that works is kind of simple. When Mossberg makes a shotgun, they ship it to a distributor who I order it from, and it comes to me. And the serial number of that gun is tracked from Mossberg all the way to me, right? And then you come to my shop and you buy that Mossberg shotgun, and you go out and use it, and then you give it to your brother or sell it to your cousin or something like that. And then let's say he comes up hard for money and he decides to sell it to somebody else. And then that somebody sells it to somebody else, or that gun gets stolen or whatever. And then it gets used in a crime, and it happens, right? When that gun gets used in a crime, if it's recovered by law enforcement, what they do is they call the ATF, and then the ATF will do a trace on that gun. And they'll go to Mossberg and they say, this Mossberg 500 with this serial number, who did you ship it to? And it will come back to me. And then the ATF calls me with what they call a trace. And when you fill out a background check here to buy a gun, all the information for that gun goes on the background check sheet. Now, it doesn't go to the FBI who does the background check. All the FBI knows when you fill out a background check is what kind of gun you're getting. You're getting a long gun, a handgun, or an other. Essentially, there's basically three types as far as the background check goes. They don't have the serial number, make, model, any of that. They just know you're getting a long gun, a handgun, or an other, which would be receivers and stuff like that. And they call me and they say, this gun was shipped to you. Who did you sell it to? And I have to keep that record in perpetuity, forever. Every gun that I sell here has got a background check tied to it, and I have to keep that forever as long as I'm in business. When Mike sold to me, he'd been in business here for 29 years. He had 60,000 of these records. I mean, we're talking about a literal ton of paperwork that he had locked up in the back. And the reason that we have to do that as FFLs is because they have to have some way of tracing illegal guns, but the federal government is not allowed to have that record. So they entrust that to us as federal firearms licensees, and we keep those records locally. And then if they track a gun back to us having been sold, then we have to find that record and give it to them so that they can try to trace where that gun went and how it ended up in the hands of a criminal or how it was used in a crime, right? And what they would do is if that John Q. Smith's Mossberg got bought for me, I tell them John Q. Smith, this birth date, right, et cetera, bought this gun on this date. And then they're going to go to John Q. Smith, And John Q. Smith's probably not going to be in trouble because John Q. Smith isn't a criminal and he didn't do anything illegal, not intentionally. He said, oh, I sold it to my brother or I gave it to my cousin. And then they're going to go to brother or cousin, whoever got the gun. They're going to say, hey, this gun was used in a crime. What happened? They're going to say, well, I sold it to so-and-so or I gave it to so-and-so. And then they're going to say, you know, the last person says, well, it got stolen out of my truck 5 years ago, right? Or something like that. And that's how they do criminal tracing on guns. So all that long roundabout is just to say, when people come to me and they say, hey, I want this gun transferred out of my name, it's not in your name, not in that way. Now, I do recommend, and you can get for free, I'm going to go get one. I'll be right back. Hold on. That you get these, okay? Personal Firearms Record. These are printed by the ATF. They're free. I keep them at my shop. I got 1,000 of them. All of my guns are on this record. And all this essentially is a logbook that you keep for your own purposes, for insurance purposes, for other reasons. It's got make, model, when you got it, if you sold it, who you sold it to, and when. You don't have to put all of that. But what you can do is you can have this record of here of all the guns that you've got, what their serial numbers are, and then if somebody breaks in your house and they steal all your guns, you can give that to law enforcement and say, these are them, let me know when you find them, right? For insurance purposes, if your house burns down, now you have to get separate policies on guns. Most homeowners' policies don't cover them, sadly, because they are expensive and they do need to be insured. But if you have that record, then that's a good way of keeping track of what you got, what it's generally worth, etc. So I recommend that everybody who has guns have that. So it's just a responsible thing to do. They're totally free. You can get them at almost any gun shop. I keep mine on the magazine rack by the front door. They're public and available. You ain't even got to ask. Come get as many as you want, right? I've got them myself. Like I said, every gun I own is on one of those. In case something happens, I can give that to law enforcement or a copy of it and say, these are what's missing. These are my guns. You know, if you find them, I'd like them returned. So all that to be said, guns aren't registered. They're not registered to your name. All they can do is track them back to where they were originally bought. And after that, it's kind of really, it's just not really tied to individuals. And if you sold a gun to somebody or gave a gun to somebody and they used it in a crime, as long as they weren't a felon or not legally allowed to own a gun and you knowingly gave them a gun knowing they couldn't legally own it, you're not going to be in trouble for it, right? They're just trying to track down this gun. And the ATF can be the ATF, but in the dealings I've had personally with the ATF, they've always been really understanding. And at the level that I deal with them, they tend to be more pro-gun than you'd expect. So anyway, I just thought I'd bring that up because it's been brought up to me quite a bit recently. You know, people coming in going, I want these guns no longer in my name, or I want to get this gun in my name. My dad gave it to me and I want it transferred to my name. And that's just not a thing. So fear not. And just so you know, I thought that'd be interesting because I really am amazed how many people, even gun people who have a lot of guns and been dealing guns for a long time, are like, I want this gun out of my name or I want this gun put in my name. That's just not really how it works. So something to be aware of. But anyway, till next time, 3 safety rules, right? Guns are always, always, always loaded. Even if they're not loaded, you know they're not loaded. They're always loaded. Treat them like they're loaded. A lot of accidents have happened with unloaded guns, right? Keep your finger off the trigger till you're ready to shoot, and don't point them at anything you're not willing to destroy, something you love, because that's what they can do. And a little fourth you're going to hear pretty often, I might as well bring it up. Know what's beyond your target, because bullets pass through things, and often they pass through things with enough energy to do damage on the other side. So if you're shooting paper and you're by the edge of the lake, it's going to go through that paper, and it's going to bounce off that lake and skip and go hit something way far away. So always keep that in mind, guys. Safety first. We don't want anybody getting hurt. And until next time, Christian, Mike's Guns, Frankfort, Kentucky. Come see me.